Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's tourism lesson. My name is Evans Maponya. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Center. During the lesson, grade 12 learners, if you happen to have any questions, please refer your question on WhatsApp. And this is the WhatsApp number that I'm going to spell out now. The WhatsApp number is 079 578 2908. Let me repeat the number for you. It's 079 578 2908. That's in case you have any questions on the topic that we are just about to look into. Right, grade 12 learners, our today's topic is tourism sectors. And the subtopic is the conditions of employment and the code of conduct. Grade 12 learners, we are looking at certain rules and regulations that workers should abide by in a formal employment situation. So there are certain conditions that the employer must adhere to in meeting the needs and the preferences of the workers. And in return, the workers or the employees are governed by the certain rules decided and in consultation, decided by the employer and in consultation with representatives of the workers are set as rules and regulations to govern a work environment situation. Now, let's unpack our topic, which is conditions of employment and the code of conduct. Where will this lesson be assessed? This lesson forms part of section D of your National Senior Certificate question paper, and it's assessed in question 7 and also in question 1. That is short questions that you'll come across in section A. This lesson or this topic, as you might be aware, has been assessed in some of the control tests that we wrote. It is also assessed or was assessed in the skills assessment task. It was forming part of the PET administration process that you just wrote on the 5th and 6th of August. It will be also assessed in the preliminary examination and the final examination for that matter. This is your question 7. Here are your lesson objectives. These objectives, as stipulated, indicates to you that, as you peruse through the topic, you must know that questions will be derived or will be asked in line with the lesson objective as I'm going to deliberate on. Here are your objectives, grade 12 learners. The first one, you need to be in a position to define what a contract of employment is and what it contains. You should be in a position to define, to tell us what a contract of employment is, and what do we find in such a contract? What items, what aspects do we find in that contract as it says what it contains? What are the components that shapes the contract of employment that you should know by heart? The second objective is that you need to be able to explain the meaning of each aspect described as condition of employment with relevant example. So you must be in a position to know and explain what each condition stipulated, each condition that has been included in the contract of employment means, and those conditions need to be adhered to, need to be followed by employees at all times. Thirdly, you need to explain the purpose and the value of the code of conduct and how it is applied to the workplace. So you need to know the function and the importance, that is the value of having a code of conduct in a workplace environment, and when and how it is applied. Now, let's get deeper into the topic. Let's unpack it in such a way that by the end of this lesson, you would understand what entails the basic conditions of employment as well as the code of conduct. Right. What is an employee? In ordinary language, we refer to an employee as a worker. But there are relevant concepts that we use in tourism to explain what an employee is as opposed to an ordinary worker. A person is regarded an employee if they have a contract of employment. This is the first requirement that defines an employee. So an employee at all times must be able or must sign a contract of employment. So he should be taken through that contract and agree to the terms and conditions that are entailed in the contract of employment. So you cannot be regarded an employee if you do not have contract. That is the first essential element that defines an employee. An employee must have a contract. They are generally required to work regularly unless they are on some type of leave. So an employee is required to work on regular basis unless if they have applied for a leave of absence. Grade 12 learners, this is very crucial and critical. So it suggests that in some institutions, you would work from Sunday to Saturday, whereas in other situations, you are expected to work Monday to Friday. So without a break. So that's what regularly clearly speak to. When they say regularly, if you are assigned a task to complete over a period of a week or a month, it means there should not be a break in your service. So that defines what an employee is. they receive paid holiday. So if you are expected to work Monday to Friday, and in between there is a holiday, you still receive your day or your pay on the days that falls into a holiday. So they don't say, or they don't calculate your salary on the number of days that you have worked. However, the holiday in between those days is counted as a working day. The same applies to the weekends. For an employee who is not working on weekends, they are included in that contract of employment that you'll be paid even if you are not expected to go to work. And this further consolidate the concept of regularly. You must be at work regularly. Yes, yet there are breaks that are created by holidays and weekends. So those days are counted in your salary automatically. So hence, I was trying to explain that you have a paid holiday. They are subject to redundancy procedures. So an employee has to follow or pursue certain procedures that are put by the employer. So those procedures repeat themselves over time and time again. So redundancy here suggests that those procedures have to be followed at all times. If the knock-off time is 15 hours, it will be repeated over and over again. So that is a redundancy procedure. If you have to report to work at 7 in the morning, that repeats itself over a number of days that you shall be offering your services, and that is the redundancy. So the redundancy here suggests that there is a repetition on those procedures. The procedures are not once off, are planned over a long period of time. So it's not a once-off thing, hence redundancy. They are also required to work a minimum number of hours and can subcontract another to do their work for them. So an employee is defined also by the number of hours, or it must be indicated prior that these are the number of hours. It must be stipulated categorically that these are the number of hours that one will work in a day. And during the time which an employee cannot subcontract another to do their work. The concept subcontract meaning that if you are not able to get to your work place, you cannot be substituted by, or you cannot ask your friend or your relative to go and replace you or substitute you for that period of time when you shall not be at work. So you cannot subcontract, you cannot ask anyone to replace you to perform your duties. All this explanation explain or suggest to you that an employee to come to a conclusion that this is an employee of a certain institution, of a certain company, we see if all that we have just looked at are subscribed to, are satisfactorily met. So one, there has to be a contract. he is expected to work regularly. He's paid for a holiday, and he must follow the redundancy procedures, and they are required to work for a minimum number of hours and cannot be replaced in any way by the people close to the employee. Now, let's look at the conditions of employment. The conditions of employment must clearly stipulate where one is supposed to work. It needs to indicate the location of your work. Where are you working? That has to be clearly defined. This is one conditions that is entailed in the contract of employment. It must also indicate what you do. They must clearly explain to you that this is what you are supposed to do, and it is summarily referred to as your job description. It must explain what your job entails. If, for example, you are employed as a security, they have to explain what you have to do. You have to man the gates, you have to open and close at the gate, the entry point of the company. You must be able to search people who are visiting outsiders. You have to protect the property. So that has to be outlined clearly as to what you need to do or what your work entails. The conditions of employment also include how long you work. So this must be clearly indicated, and we are governed by certain regulations from the Department of Labor that gives guidance as to how long needs to work. So that has to be clearly indicated as a condition of employment entailed in the contract of employment. So remember, previously we looked, or we have defined what an employee is, and the crucial aspect was that a contract of employment must be signed. So all these conditions are found in the contract of employment. Fourthly, as a condition of employment, the labor relations are protected by law. The relationship between the employer and the employee is protected by law. So there are certain regulations, there are certain rules that employers and employees must adhere to, and this is entailed in the Labor Relations Act of South Africa. Another condition of employment is that it must stipulate that. So the labor relations or the law that protects or that creates a relationship between the employee and the employer must stipulate the rights of the employee. This is clearly indicated in the Bill of Rights, that is the Constitution of South Africa. That is your section C. It tells or it explains procedures as well as fundamental rights of employees. Sorry. The Labor Relation Act is one such act that looks at whether or not employers follow the regulations that are stipulated in this act, the Labor Relations Act. I think I've alluded to it when I was explaining the labor relations. The Basic of Employment Act also is one document that is quoted in our constitution to protect the rights of the employer and those of the employee. So if an employee is at fault in his delivery of daily work conditions, or has acted in a manner that he has done wrong in accordance with the conditions that are set out for him by the employer, all these documents will be referred to as to what the sanction will be, as to how to deal with correcting all the wrongs that the employee has committed. So all these documents are relevant and serve as a guidance to the employers in dealing with issues of misconduct in a work environment. So we don't just hire and we don't just hire and release workers from without referring to these documents that are needed to. The stipulated aspects of the conditions of employment. Right, the basic one, we said the contract of employment, which explains or describes basic condition of employment, such as, or here are the conditions that must be indicated in the contract of employment. So for harmonious relationship to exist between an employer and an employee, these conditions must be included in the contract of employment. So it will stipulate the core duties. Those are the basic functions. And in the language that is used for the contract of employment is known as job descriptions. So it explains what the employee is hired for, what role must he bring into the company, what are his primary duties, which he must do on regular daily basis. It must also stipulate the working hours that must be indicated. It must also indicate uniform allowance, because certain jobs need employees to put on uniform. So we'll get deeper into details of uniform when we look at issues of professional image in the tourism industry. That is a lesson to follow. But in certain institutions, workers have to use uniform. And if we have to cite an example, we can refer to departments such as the Department of Correctional Service, the South African Police Service, the health learners, not learners, I'm sorry, employees are expected to wear certain code of clothing, certain type of clothing. I've suggested examples for you. So those people who work in an environment that requires them to wear their uniform, they need to be clarified as to whether added to their salary there will be a uniform allowance or not. Also, one item that must be included as a basic condition of employment is the travel benefits. Are you getting something in reward for your services to move? It's either for holiday or for work-related purposes. So some of the employees would be expected to move from one place to another. Are they being subsidized for their petrol? Are they given a company car to use? So that has to be also stipulated in the contract of employment as one of the conditions that must be met. Another aspect is that of leave. How many days of rest, how many days of leave is one entitled to? How many days in a year is an employee entitled to? So that must be stipulated as a condition of employment in the contract of employment. So the leave days, whether it's vacation leave, whether it is an annual leave, whether it is a sick leave, you need to have an entitlement. They should indicate how many days you have been allocated for family responsibility in a particular period of time. How many days you are entitled to if you fall sick. How many days of leave are you entitled to if you have a funeral in the family? How many days of leave, if you want to go on holidays, are you entitled to? All those days, all those leave days must be stipulated in the contract of employment as a basic condition. You cannot work forever and ever without a rest. It must stipulated as a condition the fringe benefit. The fringe benefits are benefits such as car allowance. Some companies will offer you car allowance. Some of the benefits include the housing subsidy. That is, if you want to buy a house, is there any amount or any percentage to the total cost of that house that the company pays? Those are fringe benefits. Fringe benefits also include a bonus that you get for good performance in some cases, and in other institutions, you are entitled to a bonus during your birth month. Grade 12 learners, the fringe benefit extra benefit outside your agreed salary that you'll be receiving. So are you entitled to that? Some work would require you to use a cell phone, and that becomes a benefit if it's paid and maintained by the employee, by the employer. Some job situation would require you to use a laptop, and if you are allocated such a gadget in a work situation, it becomes a benefit. So the fringe benefit is one item or one condition that is basic in the contract of employment. Remuneration and deductions, they must be stated in the contract of employment how much you are going to earn weekly, fortnightly, as well as per month. That amount of money that you will be getting will be included in the contract of employment, and it must indicate what deductions will happen to your salary. So the deductions like income tax it is something that should be indicated that during the your working years at this company, a deduction for tax will be made to your salary. All those deductions, the pension funds must be included in your salary. The unemployment benefit fund, those are such deductions that happen automatically to your salary, and an employee has a right and is entitled to know about the deductions. So it is an amount of money that is cut from your basic salary on monthly basis to accommodate the tax which SARS impose on every person who is getting an income. So such deductions must be indicated on the worker's pay slip, and for reference sake, it must be included in the contract of employment. It must also indicate that the duration or the period of which you are employed for. So the type or the nature of employment is different from one employee, from one company to another. Some companies will prefer short-term contracts, whereas others, especially the government sector, will prefer the long-term relationship with their employees. So that the date or the start date and the end date of a contract must be indicated in the contract of employment. Say maybe they want your services for a period of 5 years, renewable in some cases. It must be indicated in the contract of employment. Whereas in some cases, they will tell you it's a permanent post, so you are appointed permanently until you go for retirement, normally at the age of 60. So that what the termination of service involves, and as an item to be considered or to be put in the contract of employment. The contract of employment must also specify the professional accountability and responsibility. So for every job or duty that you are assigned to, an employee must complete it with full accountability and responsibility. So if you are employed and you were told that you are working from 7 to 16 hours, some workers, especially on Fridays, they will knock off earlier than the stipulated time. So in that instance, you are not being responsible, you are not being accountable for the duties that are allocated to you. So some will knock off at 1 o'clock, meaning that the remaining job will not be accounted for. It will, in doing so, you are being irresponsible to your employer. The employer is paying you full day, but you cheat as an employee, and that is being irresponsible of employees. And we see this kind of transaction happening in most institutions, that employees will leave before the knock-off time. Employees will arrive late to work or to their workstation. Employees will not perform their duties to the satisfaction of the employee, and some employees will steal from their employer. That is being not accountable to your employer. So you need to exercise some professionalism. You need to be accountable, and you need to be responsible. And that is the basic condition of employment that is entailed in the contract of employment. Service ethics. So there are some values that need to be observed in certain companies. For example, in a retail industry, they will state that a customer is always right. You must welcome the customers with a smile. The customers must feel at home. Those are some of the ethics that employees must ascribe to. So certain job requires a high level of ethics. Some norms and values need to be observed when executing your duties in certain companies and institutions. So those ethics must be followed at all times. Grade 12 learners, another concept that we are going to refer to is job description. So we have been speaking about this concept of job description as we explain the contract of employment, that duties must be related, must be indicated to an employee. So a job description refers to a written document. It must be written. That is the key, that is important, in black and white. That describes the related duties and responsibilities of a job. My job is a teacher. So my job description states that I must prepare lessons. I need to teach learners. So these are job description. This is a written document that indicates what I must do and carry out as a responsibility for my position, teacher. A job description for a taxi driver is that he must responsibly ferry commuters from their departure point to their destination. So one of the duties of a taxi driver is to drive the car. One of the duties is to ensure that commuters or clients or travelers are safety at all times. They must be comfortable. So those are the descriptions that explain the kind of job that he will be doing. I have indicated the description of what a security guard must do, what a manager must do. Those must be written in black and white and agreed upon by the employee and the employer. It refers also to the knowledge, skills, and abilities that an employee needs to perform the job. So they will tell you, for this kind of position in this company, you need to have a bachelor's degree that should have been completed over a period of 3 years. For certain jobs, they will need a higher qualification than just a mere degree or a diploma. They will tell you that we need a postgraduate degree for this kind of work. So Grade 12 learners, remember that every job situation needs to be executed with a relevant qualification. I may not be a doctor with a teaching qualification. I may not be an economist with a history qualification. I may not be a lawyer with a qualification not relevant to the job that I'm doing. I may not be a medical practitioner with an LLB degree because that indicates your speciality. Your qualification indicates the kind of skills that you have acquired, the kind of knowledge in the field that you want to work in. As we move forward, as a basic condition of employment, grade 12 learners, we have also indicated that the working hours or the number of hours that you are expected to execute your daily duties must be indicated as a basic condition of employment. What are your working hours? So employees, as enshrined in the Labor Relation Act, indicate that workers in South Africa are usually expected to work for 48 hours in a 5-day week. So, excluding weekends, workers must work for at least a period of 48 hours. Overtime is earned on Saturdays and Sunday. So if one works for more than 48 hours or for more than 5 days in a week, of which that exceeds 45 hours of work, that person should be paid overtime. So if you divide the 45 hours that are indicated, it tells you that Monday to Friday, the maximum number of hours that an employee must work is 9 hours. So a worker must be at his job environment for at least 9 hours a day. So anything beyond 9 hours, the employer must pay overtime, and that goes for Saturdays and Sunday. The time worked beyond 48 hours should be paid at overtime rate. So overtime rates are higher than normal rates. So if you work normal rates and you are paid 50 Rand per hour, when you take overtime responsibilities, it's possible that you may get 100% or 50% of what you earn during normal working hours. So you may find that your normal hours, working hours, you are paid 50 Rand per hour. And when you assume overtime responsibilities and half the amount is added, and instead of 50 Rand, you are now getting 75 Rand. So overtime rates are above normal rates that we have worked for. Uniform allowance is one of the basic conditions that we have indicated as we looked into the contract of employment. So uniform allowance, some business require their employees to wear uniform. I had indicated that. And from the picture here, as you can see, you can clearly describe the conditions in which people wearing uniform work in. So the white first one indicates from this kind of attire, you'd associate him with a medical staff. And this one looks more or less like a chef or a cook. So So this one is in a restaurant or a hotel industry. So it's a food and gastronomy kind of industry that is represented here. And with these two, you see a construction industry. Those who are building, working in mines, as well as those who build our infrastructure, such as roads. So they will wear like this. And this one is related to an airline industry. So this also is some kind of medical stuff. So you would associate a person with the kind of uniform that is wearing. So some job require their employees to wear a certain kind of clothing. The company can supply the uniform or give allowance towards a uniform. So in some companies, they will provide uniforms for free, whereas in other companies, you go 50-50, or the company contributes certain percentage and the employee has to pay the difference. The contract of employment will show stipulations with regard to uniform. So grade 12 learners, not every job situation would require you to wear a uniform. But in most instances, workers should adhere to certain code of attire. So in some situation like a teaching profession, where they will tell you, you need to be presentable, you need to be at least take formal wear. So all those are basic conditions of employment. Travel benefits. Travel benefits suggest that travel benefits can be an allowance to travel, or it can be time given to travel. So as you en route from your place of stay to work, you are given certain period of or allocation of time that this must happen between this and this. So travel allowance may be in the form of extra money put into your salary for your fuel, or you may be given a card, a petrol or a garage card bearing the names of the company, which you will use as you drive around with a company car or your personal car. So those are the kind of allowances that you may get. Some of the airline companies will allow their employee to travel for free, or travel at half price, or have a discounted price for the distance traveled. So these are the type of benefits that you must get as an employee and should be entailed in the contract of employment. Another condition, grade 12 learners, is leave. With leave, it refers to the period when an employee is always from work with, or it's away from work with permission. So with a leave, you apply and the employer grants permission for you to go on leave. You don't just say, I have applied for leave, and you go on leave. It must be permitted by the employer. Leave can be paid or unpaid. So there are two types of leave explained here. And unpaid leave, it means, say maybe you are sick and you have exhausted the 20 days of sick leave that maybe a company has allocated. So from the 21st day, when you are in those days or those leave shall not be paid for, shall not be catered for. So if you exceed, remember you are given a certain number of leave days, and if you go beyond those given days, then it is treated as unpaid leave. Here are your types of leave. I have once elaborated on this. The type of leave is an annual leave. An annual leave suggests that the number of days that you are entitled to take to rest per year or per annum must be indicated. So another type of leave is sick leave. So only taken when you are visiting the doctor or when you are sick or admitted in hospital. The other one is maternity leave. For this maternity leave accommodates female employees where they are entitled in the government sector. They will give you 4 months of maternity leave. That's when you are going to give birth to children. So women are entitled to 4 months, and their male partners are given a number of days also to rest, but the number of days are not so many as that of their female counterparts. So you may find that some institution will give you 3 days of maternity leave as a male or as a spouse to a female that goes on maternity leave. So the wife will get 4 months and the husband will get 3, and in some, which differs from place to place. But I haven't heard of a situation where it's more than 5. And also there is family responsibility from the government sector, from the government institution. Employees are entitled to 5 days per annum of family responsibility. And with annual sick leave, they are given 36 days of sick leave. With the annual leave, depending on the years of experience, 10 years and more, they are given 30 days of annual leave, and less than 10 years, they are given 22 of annual leave. So this annual leave can either be taken at once. You can take only a full 30 days, or you can split it into the number of quarters in a year where your services are not required the most. Fringe benefits. These are other benefits that an employee can expect while employed. So petrol allowance is one of them. Cell phone cost. Some institution will buy you airtime to use on your phone to contact clients or to execute your duties. Retirement, medical, life insurance, and discounted rate. So retirement here suggests the pension fund or the allowance that you get when you go on retirement. Allowance to cover meals in certain instances. In certain job environment, they will give you coffee, access to coffee or access to lunch, breakfast, and so forth. So other institutions will offer their employees meal, and when away from home for a long time, also you can get this kind of allowance. And examples here would be your flight attendants who normally would fly to different countries, and they have this meal or food allowance. Great planners. Also included in the contract of employment is the remuneration and deductions. This must be clearly stipulated what your remunerations will be, and can be in the form of a salary that is earned over a period of 1 month or 30 days or 31 days, or a wage that is paid over a period of 1 week or fortnightly. The amount that an employee received in a month or per week, that must be stipulated that Evans Maponya, you are employed today, and this is what you will get for the services that you render. That must be indicated in rents. This amount varies or differs according to the position at the company. A manager may not earn the same salary as the CEO of the company. Also, middle managers cannot earn the same salary as directors of the company. Deductions refer to money that are taken off the salary. So they will tell you this is your salary, and for tax, we are going to take so much. For medical aid, this is how much we will be taking. And for unemployment fund, this is what we are going to take. So these are deductions, some of the examples of deductions, and other expenses like uniform that must be indicated. And in some instances, also, some companies will deduct money for parking. Grade 12 learners, I want us to take a 5 minutes break, and when we get back, we'll further deliberate on the topics on condition of employment and the code of conduct. Welcome back, grade 12 learners. Remember to WhatsApp your questions to 079-578-2908. Grade 12 learners, during this presentation, we are trying to unpack the basic conditions that are found in a work environment. The conditions that employees have to adhere to or to subscribe to in a work situation. One of the conditions is that it must also elucidate the termination of service. This means that the service comes to an end. So the concept termination suggests putting something to an end. Must stipulate that this service or this kind of post will start or will assume the responsibility from this date, and this is the end. Unless otherwise, some stipulations just indicate that the start date will be this and it's a permanent post. That means up until you retire. The contract of employment will also state when it will be ended or the notice should be given. So in some situation, when you terminate a contract, when you say you find you find a promotion or you find another post in a different company, you must inform or you must prepare your employer beforehand. You must write a letter that as of this date, say it's September, we are in August, you must indicate. So in some instances, there is immediate termination, and which usually goes with a penalty. The employer will penalize you for not informing them on the contract. In some state institution, they want you to give them a 3 months notice during the time which you'll be doing a handover to your replacement, or you will be pushing some of the jobs until such time, some of the responsibilities until such time the company finds your replacement. This notice is valid from the employee's side as well as the employer's side. So they don't just tell you that your job has been stopped, the company is liquidated, so we cut off staff. So they will prepare you way in time that in such a month, the company is not making profit anymore. So we are going to reduce our staff. So that has to be communicated. That has to follow the procedures that are placed in the contract of employment. I'm sorry. This is one of the incidents and instances. Yes, there is immediate dismissal if the transaction is big enough to warrant that. But this is not the way to go. All this should be communicated. So we don't have to get to this kind of situation where they say you are immediately fired. That's why you see some of the employees, if they are subjected to this kind of treatment by their employers, they run to CCMA to appeal for their dismissal. So, and if granted, the penalty either goes away. So CCMA deals with situation of unfair dismissal. And it doesn't mean they are going to only focus on protecting the employee, but also it does protect the employer. So the CMA will either justify your dismissal or make employees understand that the kind of dismissal is unfair. It's either the company must compensate you or reappoint you to the same position. Professional responsibility and accountability is one of the items that must be included in the code of conduct, not the code of conduct, I'm sorry, in the contract of employment. And that is accountability means that employees can be held responsible for their actions while at work. So whatever you do it in a responsible manner, because you can be held accountable for the damages or for the loss of profit that the company may incur. Details of the responsibilities are usually given in the contract of employment. So all your responsibilities are outlined in the contract of employment. So professional responsibility, it's an exercise that is valued most in most institutions. Service ethics, we have alluded to it. Service ethics, the certain standard of behavior expected from employees that should describe the professional conduct. So service ethic refers to a set of standards of behavior and professional conduct that is required or that is expected from employees of an institution. The main factors or the expectations from the employee is that they must exercise some honesty. They need to have integrity. They need to be accountable. They need to exercise some confidentiality. They must keep the secret of the company. They need to be respectful or respect every soul within and outside the institution. They have to adhere to the rules or to the law of the company. So these are some of the service standards of behavior. These are some of the conduct that defines professionalism in the employees of an institution. All this does not go to the employees alone, but the employer always has to treat employees with honesty. They must lead with integrity, accountability, and they should not expose the secrets or some of the things that an employee would find confiding to a senior member of staff, and the senior member of staff would tell everyone. So we need to have that confidentiality. So some certain job functions requires workers and employers to keep secret. As a doctor, here is a patient coming to me to get a service, and I expose the kind of ailment, the kind of disease that the patient is suffering from. So the doctor may be discharged from work because of not keeping the secret of the patient. So some job requires us to be very secretive and keep the secrets of our clients. The purpose and value of the code of conduct, right? We'll start by explaining what the purpose is and what is the value the code of conduct. The purpose, the code of conduct spells out expected conduct of staff in the performance of their duties, and guide the staff members faced with challenges. That is the function of the code of conduct. So the code of conduct refers to a set of rules that a company sets as a way of operation for their company. And this code of conduct must be adhered to. This set of rules must be followed by the employees. The value of it creates a cooperative, collaborative atmosphere and promotes integrity in the workplace. So it creates a sense of cooperation, sense of understanding, and collaborative here, meaning working together. That teamwork is much encouraged. That is the value. And also it must promote integrity. So when we say you act with integrity, it means you can be relied on. So this is the value of the code of conduct, and the purpose, which is the function, remains that certain rules will be followed to enhance staff to perform their duties and guide staff members when they are faced with problems or challenges in their work situation. So the code of conduct is the law that governs the employees as well as the employer to create that cooperative atmosphere, and it will promote the value of integrity. Grade 12 learners, it's time to test our knowledge, and we'll practice the following questions that derived from our national papers. Remember, this topic is assessed in question 7 of the final examination paper. Grade 12 learners, be aware that this question 7 in the prelim examination for Gauteng is allocated to responsible and sustainable tourism. And this is not going to be the case in the final examination. The final examination will ask questions related to the code of conduct, as well as topics such as professional image in the final examination. So question 7 for the prelim would be on sustainable and responsible tourism. Now let's practice these questions that comes from the national paper, and it's your question 7. Read the information below and answer the questions that follow. The Royal Tourism Business, fair labor practice. Fair labor practice, it tells you that these labor practices are related to the condition and the code of conduct of employees in a company. To treat their employees fairly, Royal Tourism Services implement the required conditions of employment. And here are the conditions. All employees have legally binding contract. So this is one requirement, that to define an employee, we said he must have a legally binding contract. So they must all have the contract of employment, working hours, and overtime comply with the law. Remember, with working hours, we said the working hours must not exceed 45 hours in 5 days of the week. And if they work beyond 45 hours, they should be paid overtime rates. All employees are paid a fair salary wage. Employees are given meal breaks during working hours. Deductions are made according to legal requirements. That is your UIF, that is your tax, are within the confines of the percentage that must be deducted. Employees have access to basic conditions of the Employment Act. So an act must be provided for employee to refer to as to how to behave themselves in a work situation. 7.2.2, here is a question. It says, explain the difference between working hours and overtime hours. Let's see how it is answered. So a table of comparison between the two has been indicated. So we are comparing the difference between the two working hours, that is the normal working hours as well as overtime. So the maximum working hours are specified, for example, 45 hours per week. As we focus on this column again, other alternatives will include the normal working hours are part of a contractual obligation. So workers are not supposed to work hours outside the normal working hours. Working hours are paid normal rates. So as we assess the difference on the other side of the table, that refers to overtime. Working hours worked over and above the required working conditions, that is over 45 hours that are indicated in a 5 days or in a week, then that is considered overtime. Overtime hours are negotiated to a maximum of 10 hours per week. And if you divide 45 by 5, that is what you call 9 hours per day. Overtime is paid higher than ordinary working hours. That we have explained during our deliberation. Let's practice more of these questions. 7.3, the 7 here indicates that it's question 7, and the other figures, the other numbers after the 7 indicates that it's a sub question in this question, in this bigger question. The cabin crew of an airline has many responsibilities. Give one condition as part of the airline code of conduct on the following: punctuality and treatment of passengers. Let's zoom into the answers. 7.3.1 speaks to punctuality. The cabin crew, as one of the expectations, they have to report for duty on time. And on time here suggests that a flight cannot travel to its destination without this crew or a complete complement of the cabin crew. So they must be arrive on time because they are required to serve the travelers in such a flight. Be able to manage their time. So that is also expresses the idea that they should be always on time. Not be late, as it will have an effect on the rest of the airline. So these are very important people, and one of the code of conduct is that of punctuality. Contract of employment requires that they should be timers at all times. They should be in a position to manage all time, the time effectively, because without them, the flight will not operate accordingly. 7.3.2, as we explained, the treatment of passengers, how should they relate to the passengers in the flight? The crew members may not be rude to passengers. So a rude cabin crew will lead to the passengers not booking trips using that flight. Passengers should always be treated with respect. Crew members should not become too familiar with passengers, and crew members must be firm towards unruly passengers who threaten the safety of other passengers. These are requirements in terms of treating the passengers by crew members in an airline. As we further explore into practice questions, here is a case study that needs to be studied. And from the picture here, you can see the crew members for this cruise ship. So let's read what it indicates. It says, study the information below and answer the questions that follow. Conditions of employment. This whole scenario elaborates on the conditions of employment of these crew members for a cruise ship. As we go through it, the head office of international cruise line are often based in major cities across the world. Therefore, they do not need to adhere to basic condition of employment legislation of any country. As we analyze the statement, it simply means that you had head offices in Johannesburg for this cruise ship. You have employment agency or another office in Cape Town. You have another office in Windhoek. You have another office in London, in Paris. So it's the offices are situated in different countries. As such, they do not follow the employment conditions of a particular country because different countries are involved in managing the cruise. They can hire staff from anywhere in the world, even though it may create challenges relating to employment laws. However, cruise lines have set employment criteria that must be met when the staff is hired. Working on a cruise ship often means long shift of more than 12 hours a day. It is common practice to work 7 days a week for several months without a break. Resting periods are often inadequate, that is too short, and staff is often not paid for working overtime. So these are the conditions that apply to international cruise lines. The reason being, their offices are different from different countries, and it employs people from different countries. Thus, the conditions are somewhat different from other work conditions. 7.1.1, it says, name the agreement between the cruise line and the crew members that must be signed before reporting for duty on a cruise ship. I'm sure I can see some of you are smiling. You know the answer to this one. 7.1.2, Lydia is a travel agent specializing in booking for cruise liners. Her office is in the city center of Berbera. Her work week is from Monday to Friday, and it is in line with the basic condition of the Employment Act. Now, the question is divided into two, that is A and B. Give Lydia's working hours specified by the basic condition of Employment Act. And number B says, advise Lydia on one regulation concerning overtime. 7.1.2, the document that must be signed by the employee before resuming work in a cruise liner is a contract of employment. 7.1.2, number A, the working hours, that is 9 hours per day and 45 hours per week, except 9-hour time frame, and so forth. Number B, Lydia must be paid 1.5 times, that is 1.5 times the regular rate for hours worked. So if she works for overtime, she must be given an extra 1.5 times. Overtime worked is voluntary or agreed upon. So all these conditions apply. Let's move further. 7.2, practice questions. Study the information below and answer the questions that follow. A code of conduct. Be professional and cautious. Treat everyone with kindness and respect. These are some of the code of conduct that are placed. Prioritize safety and security. Always keep passengers and crew safe. Work together as a team. Help each other and communicate well. Respect privacy and confidentiality. Keep passengers and crew members information private. Also maintain cleanliness and appearance. Maintain a clean and a neat uniform and personal hygiene. Act with integrity. Be honest and do not do the right thing. Respect cultural differences. Be mindful of different cultures and background. Those are the code of conduct that have been mentioned on that extract. Practice questions 7.2.1. It says give one reason why a cruise line must have a code of conduct to their staff. Number 7.2, respect for cultural differences is essential when working on a cruise ship. And the question says, discuss one consequence. What can happen for a crew member who disrespect the cultural difference? 7.2.3, explain how respecting a code of conduct can promote a conducive, good working environment for staff. Here are the answers for 7.2.1. The code of conduct will regulate how staff should behave while working in a cruise ship. It also helps create a positive workplace environment as staff is aware of the rules. It guides employees on how to react. I deal with sensitive situation in the workplace. It minimizes the incidents of misconduct that could harm the cruise line's image and reputation. So any one of these for 2 marks. 7.2.2, if a crew member does not show respect for cultural differences, they would face disciplinary actions. This might include warnings, reprimand from the management, teamwork will be compromised. The crew members can face dismissal depending on the severity of the offense, thus impacting negatively on the future of the employment opportunity. Any one of these for 2 marks. 7.23, respecting the code of conduct encourages teamwork by setting clear rules for behavior. This creates trust and cooperation among team members. It reduces conflict and allows staff to focus on their work. It also boosts morale and productivity, making the work environment more positive and supportive. For another 2 marks, any of these will be catered, and the question was allocated 12 marks. For the next lesson, grade 12 learners, that comes on the 21st of August 2025 from 14:30 to 1600 hours. The topic for discussion will be on professional image in the tourism industry. And on that note, I would like to thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Till we meet next week. Goodbye. Thank you.